Hi, welcome to ThreatTraq Essentials, where we're going to take a look at some everyday cybersecurity lessons we can learn from this week's ThreatTraq stories. I'm here with Jonathan Gonzalez. How you doing, Jonathan?
Great, thank you.
Let's talk about this week's stories. John Hogaboom was back this week, and he brought us a story about some vulnerabilities with some products produced by SonicWall. Tell me about that.
So right now, there's not a lot of information about the vulnerability itself. But I think that as anybody that owns hardware that might be exposed to the internet, and in this case, if you own, a SonicWall VPN, for example, they're warning you that there are patches for a zero-day vulnerability, and that you should, start planning to patch. So, with any patching or with any vulnerability that comes up, the manufacturer's doing the right thing here and giving us all a heads up.
So for those people who are using those products, what advice do we want to give them?
When a manufacturer comes out to tell you that there's a zero-day vulnerability in their products, you want to pay attention. Obviously, if you have systems that are business critical, you should test with, make sure that these new patch doesn't break things that you have in place. And then obviously patch, right? So that in any case, if this vulnerability gets out and it becomes more widespread, known so that it's easily exploited, that you're not found vulnerable, and that you already have the patches in place within your business.
You brought us a story about some potential risks in using WhatsApp. Tell me, what are the vulnerabilities? What could happen there?
So the vulnerability itself is not WhatsApp. So WhatsApp actually, it's the innocent bystander, the tool being used to deploy this malware. The malware creators are using this technique where they're tricking people into installing this malware that uses WhatsApp to spread, right? So you in the process of installing this malware gave it permission to do things within WhatsApp that allows it to spread into all your contacts. So every contact that you have could potentially end up getting a message from you to install this malware in their own devices.
So how do you keep something like that from happening? It has to do with what permissions you grant to apps, right?
Right. So we don't know exactly how this specific malware gets installed in the initial set of people, right? The people that allowed it. But it's the same, but we know from the people that get it after what you need to do, which is, one, you have to completely bypass Google Play Store installation. You actually have to install outside of that. So you're allowing the phone to do that. And in most phones, you have to allow that yourself. Like you tell it, please allow it to install from unknown sources. So that already, gave you a hold, you lost protection. Then after you install this third-party app outside the Google Store, the app walks you through how to allow it to do certain things. It asks for permissions about letting it see your notifications. It asks for permissions about overlaying itself onto other apps. I think it even asks you to disable the battery saving mode so it's always running. So as a user, you had multiple places where you could have stopped yourself from getting infected, but you didn't. So the cautionary tale here is, if you get a link, even from a friend or a family member, and it's asking you to install some app on your phone, and that app then asks you to enable a bunch of permissions, stop, right? Like this should not be something that you are okay with. Call your family member. Maybe they don't know they're infected, right? Don't just install it because it was somebody you trusted.
And David, who was new to the show today, brought us a story about an old binary called the finger command and some vulnerabilities that are happening there. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I personally am not as familiar with this command. It's old, like it's not really used. I guess it exists within Windows, and some attackers have found that they can actually use it to download malware and to remotely download malware. So it's just a very odd thing to see such an old command still being used now for nefarious purposes. But, that's just the bad guys finding ways around the protections that we put in place.
So what are the protections that one can do today for this old command?
There are there's a few things you can do. For example, I believe you can, make sure that the ports, and I don't recall the ports, but please watch the longer clip of this where we talk about it on the article. But you can block the port that Finger uses from, getting out and downloading things within your network. You can, there are certain protections within Windows that allow you to block certain apps, so you can tell it, I think it's like app blocker, so like you can block the app so it doesn't do anything. And in a larger enterprise, you can scan for activity that, kind of acts like this, right, to try to figure out if Finger is being used as a tool to download malware.
And what about the home user? What can they do to protect themselves?
Yeah, so this kind of attack actually is delivered as many just through a regular phishing email, right? Like just an email with an attachment with a Word document that asks you to enable a macro. So for a home user, just be careful. When you get an email with an attachment, if it's not from a known source, and even if it is from a known source, if you weren't expecting it, don't open it, don't enable macros. Macros will install and use tools like Finger to then remotely download more bad stuff. So this is just another cautionary tale of be careful of phishing attempts on all your mailboxes, home and work.
Okay, well, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you all for watching. If you want to keep up with great stories and advice like this every week, please like and subscribe below. And if you want to take a deeper look at any of these stories, click on the playlist below. We'll see you next time.